The plasma blade hummed 3 inches from Marcus Reed's throat, its violet glow casting shadows across the cargo bay. The woman holding it was impossibly beautiful, angular features that spoke of Vulcarian heritage, silver hair that caught the starlight streaming through the viewport, and eyes like molten amber that burned with lethal intent. "You're smaller than I expected," she said, her voice carrying the melodic accent of the Outer Rim colonies. "The infamous human who destroyed the hegemony's flagship." Marcus raised his hand slowly, never breaking eye contact. "That's a matter of perspective. I prefer to think of it as aggressive negotiations." The assassin's grip tightened on her weapon. "My name is Lyra Voss. I've been tracking you for 3 months across 17 systems. The hegemony placed a bounty on your head worth more than most planets' GDP. Flattering, but I'm afraid you've made a critical error." Her perfect eyebrow arched. "Enlighten me, human. You're assuming I'm defenseless." Marcus smiled, and something in his expression made her take an involuntary step back. "You see, humans have this peculiar trait. We don't surrender, we adapt." The lights in the cargo bay suddenly died, plunging them into darkness. Emergency. Lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. In that brief moment of blindness, Marcus moved. When Lyra's enhanced vision adjusted, she found herself pinned against the bulkhead, her plasma blade clattering across the deck. The human's hand was wrapped around her throat, not choking, but holding her with surprising gentleness considering the circumstances. How she gasped. "Microcharges wired to the lighting system," Marcus explained, his face inches from hers. "I've been expecting company. Your people aren't exactly subtle." With their surveilling, Lyra's combat training kicked in. She drove her knee toward his solar plexus, but he shifted, catching her leg and pulling her off balance. They fell together, rolling across the deck in a tangle of limbs. She was fast, enhanced by Vulcarian genetics and military augmentations, but Marcus fought with the unpredictable brutality of a species that had clawed its way from the bottom of the food, chained to the stars. "You're not like the others," she said, breathing hard as they grappled. "Other humans I've killed, screamed, begged. Maybe you killed the wrong humans." She managed to break free, rolling to her feet with fluid grace. But instead of reaching for another weapon, she stood there, studying him with those amber eyes. "The hegemony said humans were weak, primitive, but you, double quotes." She touched her throat where he'd held her. "You could have killed me just now." The thought occurred to me. "Why didn't you?" Marcus retrieved her plasma blade, testing its weight. "Because I recognized something in your eyes. The same thing I see in the mirror every morning, which is someone who's tired of being a puppet." Lyra's augmented reflexes screamed at her to attack, to complete her mission, but something held her back. This human wasn't behaving according to any tactical manual she'd studied. He stood there, holding her weapon with casual familiarity, yet making no move to threaten her. "You know nothing about me," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I know you're the best the hegemony has to offer. I know you've never failed a mission. And I know you're questioning why they really want me dead." She circled him slowly, her body coiled for action. "The official reports say you're a terrorist, a war criminal who destroyed a medical frigate." "Medical frigate?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what they're calling the Decimator now? The ship that glassed 3 human colonies?" Lyra's steps faltered. "That's impossible. The Decimator was destroyed in a reactor accident." "No accident. I was there when it happened. I was the one who rigged the antimatter containment to fail." He tossed her plasma blade back to her. She caught it reflexively, surprised by the gesture. "Go ahead, check the galactic database. Cross-reference the Decimator's mission logs with the dates of the colony attacks." "You're lying, am I? Or are you afraid to find out the truth?" Lyra's hand trembled as she activated her wrist computer. The holographic display flickered to life, showing shipping manifests, military records, and classified files that her hegemony clearance gave her access to. What she found made her blood run cold. The Decimator hadn't been a medical frigate. It had been a world killer, equipped with orbital bombardment cannons and biological weapons. The colonies it had destroyed, New Geneva, Prosperity Station, and Terra Nova, had been human settlements. Civilian populations. Millions of innocent lives. "The hegemony told us they were military targets," she whispered, her face pale in the red emergency lighting. "The hegemony tells its soldiers many things. How many other missions have you completed without questioning your orders?" She thought of the human settlements she'd infiltrated, the terrorist cells she'd eliminated, the families she'd torn apart. All in the name of galactic peace and stability. All based on lies. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Because you deserve to know what you're really fighting for. And because I need allies, not enemies. Lyra's training ward with the evidence before her eyes. Everything she'd believed, everything she'd devoted her life to, was crumbling. The hegemony wasn't the force for order and civilization she'd been taught it was. It was something else entirely. They'll kill me if I don't complete this mission, she said finally. They'll kill you anyway, eventually. Assassins who ask too many questions have short lifespans. She looked at him then, really looked at him, not as a target, but as a person. He was younger than she'd expected, probably in his early 30s, with the kind of weathered face that spoke of hard choices and harder consequences. His eyes were gray, like storm clouds, and they held a depth of pain that she recognized all too well. What are you suggesting? That we disappoint them together? The next 6 hours changed everything. Marcus led Lyra through the ship's databanks, showing her intelligence reports, intercepted communications, and first-hand accounts of hegemony atrocities. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of her worldview. The Titan massacre, she said, scrolling through footage of human refugees being gunned down by hegemony forces. We were told it was a military operation against insurgents. Children and elderly colonists don't make very effective insurgents, Marcus replied grimly. But they do make convenient scapegoats. They sat across from each other in the ship's small galley, the tension between them shifting from hostility to something more complex. Lyra had removed her combat armor, revealing the form-fitting bodysuit beneath. She was beautiful in a way that transcended species, the kind of deadly grace that made her perfect for her profession. How long have you known, she asked, about the hegemony's true nature? Since I was 16. My parents were diplomats, trying to negotiate a peaceful coexistence treaty. The hegemony executed them as security risks and told the galaxy they died in a transport accident. I'm sorry, don't be. It taught me the most important lesson of my life. Never trust anyone who claims to know what's best for you. Lyra traced patterns on the table with her finger, her amber eyes thoughtful. I was 5 when the hegemony took me. They said I was being recruited for a special program, elite training for exceptional individuals. It wasn't until years later that I realized it was just a pretty way of saying they'd kidnapped me. You had family, a sister, younger than me. They told me she died in a plague outbreak on our homeworld. I believed them until tonight. Marcus reached across the table, covering her hand with his. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through, both of them not just physical, but something deeper. Recognition, understanding. We can find her, he said. How do you know she's still alive? Because you're too valuable to have been a one-off. If they took you, they probably took her too. Different program, maybe, but alive. Tears she hadn't shed in decades threatened to fall. Why are you helping me? Because everyone deserves a chance at redemption. And because I've been fighting this war alone for too long. She turned her hand palm up, their fingers intertwining. The hegemony will never stop hunting us. They'll send everything they have. Let them come. You don't understand. I know their protocols. Once an assassin goes rogue, they activate the Purge Directive. Every agent, every ship, every resource gets redirected to eliminate the threat. They won't just kill us, they'll destroy everything we've ever touched. Marcus squeezed her hand. Then we'd better make sure we're worth the effort. Something shifted in the air between them. The assassin sent to kill him and the man who'd shown her mercy. 2 souls, scarred by the same enemy, finding unexpected solace in each other's company. I need to contact my handler, she said. Buy us time. What will you tell them? That the target is more elusive than expected. That I need additional resources. She smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. Assassins are expected to be thorough. They'll give me at least 48 hours before they start asking uncomfortable questions. And after that, we run together. The false report bought them exactly 43 hours. Marcus watched Lyra work, marveling at the precision with which she crafted her deception. Every detail was perfect, from the fabricated surveillance footage to the forged energy signatures that suggested he'd fled to the outer rim. You're remarkably good at lying, he observed. Years of practice. The hegemony doesn't just train killers, they train actors. Half of being an effective assassin is making people believe you're someone else. She was different now, more relaxed. The lethal tension that had defined her movements was still there, but tempered by something warmer. Trust, maybe, or hope. Show me your ship, she said. Marcus led her through the corridors of the Defiant, his modified cargo hauler. It didn't look like much from the outside, deliberately so, but beneath the battered hull lay some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. stolen, traded, or reverse-engineered from a dozen different species. Impressive, Lyra said, running her fingers along the modified plasma conduits. Where did you get the quantum stabilizers? Liberated them from a hegemony research facility. They were using them to perfect their world-killer weapons. And the stealth system, Volcarian, design, traded medical supplies for the schematics. He paused. Your people's technology is remarkable when it's not being used for oppression. She turned to face him, studying his features in the blue glow of the ship's systems. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. The air between them crackled, with unspoken tension. They were standing close now, close enough that Marcus could smell the faint scent of her perfume, something exotic and dangerous that made his pulse quicken. This is insane, she whispered. What is this us? Everything. She gestured at the ship around them. 12 hours ago I was going to kill you. Now I'm helping you plan a rebellion against the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Having second thoughts. No, that's what makes it insane. Marcus reached up, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Lyra, don't. She caught his wrist, but didn't pull it away. Don't make this more complicated than it already is. Too late for that. She looked into his eyes, searching for something. Whatever she found there made her breath catch. If we do this, if we run together, there's no going back. The hegemony will never stop hunting us, I know. We'll be fugitives. Outcasts will have nothing but each other, I know. And you're still willing to risk everything for someone who tried to kill you. Marcus smiled, the expression transforming his face. I've been waiting my whole life for someone worth risking everything for. The kiss was inevitable, a collision of desperation and desire that had been building since the moment they'd met. Lyra's lips were soft against his, her body pressing close as years of isolation and loneliness poured out in a single, electric moment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. The hegemony will detect our heat signatures, she said, her voice husky. Let them, Marcus, let them know that their perfect assassin chose love over duty. Let them know that humanity doesn't bow to tyrants. She laughed, a sound like silver. Bells, you're absolutely mad, probably. Is that a problem? No, she said, pulling him closer. It's perfect. The hegemony's response came 18 hours later, full battle fleet materializing at the edge of the system. Marcus watched the tactical display as 63 ships dropped out of hyperspace, their formation precise and deadly. They're not taking any chances, Lyra observed, her fingers dancing over the sensor controls. 3 dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, and enough fighters to glass a planet, all for little old me. For us, they know I've turned. She pointed to a distinctive ship at the fleet's center. That's the Nemesis, Admiral Korath's flagship. He only leaves the core worlds for priority targets. Marcus studied the approaching vessels. How long do we have? Their forward scouts will reach scanning range in 6 hours. After that, it's a matter of time before they detect our emissions. Then we'd better move fast. The next few hours were a blur of preparation and desperation. Marcus had spent years preparing for this moment, the day when the hegemony would finally commit everything to destroying him. Hidden caches of supplies, forged identity documents, and escape routes mapped across 3 sectors. But he'd always planned to face it alone. Having Lyra with him changed everything. The Kepler station network, she said, studying his contingency plans. That's your target, isn't it? If I can access their central database, I can broadcast the truth to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The hegemonies built their power on lies. Expose those lies, and their support crumbles. It's a death trap. The station's defended by the entire 4th Fleet. I know you'll never get close enough to interface with their systems. I don't need to. Marcus activated a hidden compartment in his quarters, revealing a sleek device about the size of a briefcase. Quantum virus. One-shot data weapon that can penetrate any network from a distance of 50,000 kilometers. Lyra's eyes widened. That's impossible. The computing power alone, human ingenuity. We may not have your species' genetic advantages, but we're exceptionally good at breaking things. She picked up the device, marveling at its construction. This could cripple the hegemony's entire communication network. That's the idea. And you were planning to deliver it personally. Someone has to. The virus requires direct activation, and the security protocols are designed to prevent exactly this kind of infiltration. Lyra set the device down carefully. Marcus, this is suicide. Even if you reach the station, even if you deploy the virus, you'll never escape. The 4th Fleet will tear you apart. I know, then why? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars through the viewport. Because someone has to be first. Someone has to show the galaxy that the hegemony can be beaten, that humans won't be their victims anymore, and if you die, then I die free. Lyra moved to stand beside him, her reflection ghost-like in the transparisteel. There's another way. I'm listening. The Nemesis carries a quantum communicator array, military grade, capable of simultaneous transmission to every hegemony world. If we could access it, we could broadcast the truth directly from their own flagship. Marcus turned to her. You know the ship's layout. I spent 3 years assigned to Admiral Korath's personal security detail. I know every deck, every corridor, every weakness. It's still suicide, maybe, but at least we'd be committing suicide together. Marcus studied her face, seeing the determination burning in her amber eyes. You don't have to do this. You could disappear, find your sister, build a new life. Not while the hegemony exists. They took everything from me once. I won't let them do it again. Lyra, she pressed a finger to his lips. Don't try to talk me out of this. We both know it's the only way. Together. Together. The Defiant drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, its stealth systems pushed to their limits. On the tactical display, the hegemony fleet spread across the system like a vast spiderweb, their search patterns methodical and relentless. Marcus and Lyra worked in comfortable silence, modifying equipment and preparing for what would almost certainly be their final mission. The intimacy between them had deepened, born from shared danger and mutual respect. When their hands touched while reaching for the same tool, neither pulled away. Tell me about your sister, Marcus said, calibrating the quantum virus's targeting protocols. Kira, she was 7 when they took me. Bright, curious, always asking questions about everything. Lyra's voice was soft with memory. She wanted to be a scientist. Said she was going to discover new worlds and name them after flowers. She sounds wonderful. She was as God. I hope she's still alive. Marcus looked up from his work. When this is over, when the hegemony falls, we'll find her. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've never broken a promise to someone I love. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Lyra's hands stilled on the plasma rifle she was modifying. Love, she whispered. Is that so surprising? I'm an assassin. I've killed hundreds of people. I came here to murder you. And I'm a terrorist who's destroyed more ships than I can count. We're quite a pair. She laughed despite herself. The galaxy's most wanted criminals. The galaxy's most wanted lovers. This time when they kissed, it was different, not desperate or urgent, but tender. A promise made flesh, a pledge of devotion that transcended their dark past. I love you, too, she said against his lips, even though I'm about to get us both killed, especially because of that. The proximity alarms chose that moment to chime. Marcus pulled away reluctantly, checking the sensors. A single hegemony scout ship was approaching their position, its scanners probing the moon's surface. They're getting closer, Lyra observed. Time to go. The Defiant's engines hummed to life, propelling them away from the moon's protective shadow. Marcus plotted a course that would take them through the asteroid belt, using the floating rocks as cover while they closed the distance to the enemy fleet. Remember, Lyra said, checking her weapon one final time, Korath keeps his personal quarters on Deck 7. The quantum communicator is 3 levels down, in the ship's communication center, and the security, heavy, but they're not expecting an attack from someone with my clearance codes. Those codes are probably compromised by now, maybe, but the biometric scanners will still recognize me. I have about 30 seconds after we dock before they realize something's wrong. Marcus nodded grimly. 30 seconds to change the course. Of galactic history, no pressure. They emerged from the asteroid belt to find the hegemony fleet directly ahead, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. The Nemesis hung in the center of the formation like a metallic mountain, its weapon arrays trained on empty space. They're beautiful, Lyra said quietly. What, the ships? I used to think they represented order and civilization. Now I see them for what they really are, instruments of oppression dressed up in pretty metal. After tonight they'll be scrap metal, assuming we survive. Assuming we survive. The Defiant's computer chimed softly, indicating they'd reached the optimal position for their attack. Marcus looked at Lyra one last time, memorizing her face. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. The Defiant's stealth systems failed the moment they fired on the Nemesis. Marcus's modified torpedo punched through the flagship's shields, creating a breach in the hull large enough for a small ship to enter. Alarms screamed across the hegemony fleet as their most precious vessel came under attack. Boarding successful, Lyra reported, her fingers flying over the control panel. But they know we're here. How long before they send reinforcements? 5 minutes, maybe less. Marcus guided their ship into the flagship's hangar bay, emergency bulkheads slamming shut. Behind them, the artificial gravity took hold, and they felt the familiar tug of acceleration as the Nemesis began evasive maneuvers. "Stay close," Lyra said, checking her weapons. "The crew will be in full alert mode." They moved through the ship's corridors, like ghosts, Lyra's insider knowledge guiding them past security checkpoints and guard stations. The Nemesis was a maze of gleaming metal and pulsing energy conduits, a testament to the hegemony's technological supremacy. "There," Lyra whispered, pointing to a heavily secured door. "The communication center." Marcus examined the Laka complex, biometric scanner that required retinal identification, DNA sampling, and neural pattern matching. "Can you bypass it?" "I can try." She placed her palm on the scanner, holding her breath as the device analyzed her genetic signature. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door slid open with a soft hiss. "Welcome, Agent Voss," a synthesized voice announced. "Your access privileges have been verified." "So much for 30 seconds, Marcus muttered. The communication center was a cathedral of technology, its walls lined with quantum processors and hyperspace transmitters. At the center of the room stood a cylindrical chamber containing the ship's primary communication array, a device capable of reaching every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. There, Lyra pointed to the central console. "That's where you need to interface the virus." Marcus approached the console, the quantum virus device feeling heavy in his hands. As he began connecting the necessary cables, footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. "Company," Lyra warned, taking position by the door. "How much time do you need?" she asked. 2 minutes. I'll buy you 5. The door exploded inward, revealing a squad of hegemony soldiers in full combat armor. Lyra met them with a fury that bordered on supernatural, her enhanced reflexes and years of training turning her into a living weapon. Plasma bolts filled the air as she danced between the soldiers, her movements fluid and deadly. Marcus forced himself to focus on the virus, even as the battle raged around him. The device was interfacing with the Nemesis's communication systems, breaking through layer after layer of encryption and security protocols. Status indicators flashed green as the virus began uploading the evidence of the hegemony's crimes. "Marcus," Lyra called out, her voice strained with effort. "More coming." He looked up to see her pinned behind a fallen console, plasma fire keeping her trapped. Blood ran down her arm where a bolt had grazed her, but her eyes still blazed with determination. 30 seconds, he shouted back. "I don't have 30 seconds. The virus upload reached 90% completion. Marcus watched the progress bar crawl forward, each second feeling like an eternity. Around him, the battle intensified as more soldiers poured into the communication center. "Got it," he announced as the upload completed. "The virus is active." But even as he spoke, he realized something was wrong. The soldiers had stopped firing. Lyra was still crouched behind her makeshift barricade, but she was looking at something behind him. Marcus turned to find Admiral Korath standing in the doorway, flanked by 24 elite guards. The Admiral was exactly as Marcus had imagined. Imposing, with the kind of presence that commanded absolute obedience. "Impressive," Korath said, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "You've managed to accomplish what entire fleets have failed to do: breach the Nemesis's defenses and access our primary communication array. The galaxy will know the truth," Marcus said, his hand moving toward his weapon. "Will it smiled, the expression predatory. "You see, Mr. Reed, you've made a fundamental error. You assumed that our communication array was actually connected to the galactic network." Marcus's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? This ship, this entire fleet is a trap. We've been hunting you for months, learning your methods, your resources, your psychological profile. We knew you'd eventually attempt something like this. You're lying, am I? Check your virus, Mr. Reed. Check the transmission logs." With growing horror, Marcus looked at the communication console. The virus had uploaded successfully, but the transmission indicators showed no outgoing traffic. The quantum communicator was operating in a closed loop, broadcasting to nothing but empty space. "The real communication array is located on the bridge," Korath continued, "heavily guarded and completely inaccessible. This room is nothing but an elaborate deception." "No," Lyra whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. "It's not possible." "Oh, but it is. My dear Agent Voss, did you really think we trusted you completely? We've been monitoring your activities for weeks, waiting for you to lead us to your new ally." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Everything they'd planned, everything they'd risked, had been for nothing. The hegemony had been won, step ahead from the beginning, using their own desperation against them. You used me, Lyra said, her voice hollow with betrayal. We used you both, Korath replied. Though I must admit, your romantic entanglement was an unexpected bonus. It made you even more predictable. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, hot and pure. You destroyed entire worlds, murdered billions of innocent people. We brought order to chaos, imposed civilization on savagery. The galaxy is better for our efforts. The galaxy is a graveyard, a necessary sacrifice. You humans, in particular, have always been problematic. Too independent, too willing to question authority. But you've also proven remarkably useful as a cautionary tale. The Admiral gestured to his guards, who began to close in. Your execution will be broadcast across every inhabited world. The last human terrorist, brought to justice by the very assassin he tried to seduce. I'll die before I let you use me like that, Lyra snarled. You'll die regardless. The only question is whether your death serves a purpose. Marcus looked at Lyra, seeing the same desperate determination in her eyes that he felt burning in his own chest. They were trapped, outnumbered, and facing certain death. But they weren't finished yet. You know what your mistake was? Marcus asked conversationally. Enlighten me. You assumed that was my only virus. Korath's confidence faltered for just a moment. Impossible. We monitored your ship, you monitored the Defiant. But you didn't monitor what I left behind. As if summoned by his words, the ship's lights flickered, then went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the communication center in red. The real virus wasn't in the quantum device, Marcus continued, his voice carrying over the sudden chaos. It was in the torpedo that breached your hull, a simple transmission virus that's been eating its way through your ship's systems for the past 20 minutes. Korath's face went pale. Guards, secure the bridge. But it was too late. The virus had already done its work, turning the Nemesis's own systems against the crew. Bulkheads sealed randomly, cutting off escape routes. Atmospheric processors began, flooding compartments with sleep gas. And most importantly, the real quantum communicator came online, broadcasting everything, every conversation, every classified file, every piece of evidence of the hegemony's crimes. You magnificent bastard, Lyra breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. I told you humans were good at breaking things, Marcus replied, grabbing her hand. Now let's get out of here before they figure out how to stop it. The guards were in disarray, their communication systems compromised and their orders unclear. Marcus and Lyra fought their way through the confusion, using the ship's own defenses against its crew. Behind them, they could hear Korath screaming orders that no one could receive. The hangar bay, Lyra gasped as they ran through the corridors. If we can reach the Defiant, we can't. The virus locked down all the launch bays. Then how do we get off this ship? Marcus smiled grimly. We don't. What? The virus isn't just broadcasting evidence. It's also uploading tactical data about the hegemony fleet to every resistance cell in the galaxy. Their locations, their weaknesses, their command structures. That's suicide. We'll be trapped here when the other ships realize what's happening, not if we take the Nemesis with us. They reached the ship's reactor core, a massive chamber filled with antimatter containment units and fusion reactors. The virus had already begun its work here, overriding safety protocols and initiating a cascade failure. How long? Lyra asked. 10 minutes, maybe less. Around them, the ship shuddered as the first antimatter containment unit went critical. The Nemesis was dying, taking with it the symbol of hegemony power and the evidence of their crimes. I'm sorry, Marcus said, pulling Lyra close. I should have told you about the real plan. You did what you had to do. We both did. I love you too. They held each other as the ship died around them, two souls finding peace in the heart of destruction. The explosion that consumed the Nemesis was visible from 3 star systems away. The flagship's antimatter reactors detonated in a cascade of pure energy, taking with them Admiral Korath, his crew, and the symbol of hegemony invincibility. But Marcus and Lyra weren't aboard when it happened. Escape pods, Marcus explained, as they watched the destruction from the safety of a stolen shuttle. The virus didn't just lock down the launch bays, it also activated the automated evacuation systems. We were ejected, along with the rest of the crew. You planned this, Lyra said, wonder in her voice. I planned for the possibility. The virus was designed to preserve life whenever possible, even enemy life. I may be a terrorist, but I'm not a monster. Around them, the void was filled with escape pods and emergency beacons. The cream of the hegemony fleet, reduced to refugees in the darkness of space. Look, Lyra pointed to the tactical display. The other ships are pulling back. Marcus nodded. The virus's broadcast had reached every corner of the galaxy, revealing the truth about the hegemony's crimes. More importantly, it had transmitted the locations and vulnerabilities of every hegemony installation to the resistance networks. It's beginning, he said softly. What is? The revolution. Even as they watched, hyperspace signatures began appearing throughout the system. Not hegemony ships, but vessels from a dozen different species: humans, Vulcarians, Centauri, even some of the enslaved races from the core worlds. The resistance was mobilizing. They're answering the call, Lyra breathed. Your people among them, some of them, the ones who still remember what freedom feels like. The first shots were fired an hour later. A small flotilla of human ships engaged. A hegemony patrol, their modified weapons cutting through the enemy's shields like paper. The virus had given them more than intelligence, it had provided detailed schematics of hegemony technology, revealing weaknesses that could be exploited. It's working, Marcus said, watching the battle unfold. The hegemony is losing. They'll adapt, regroup. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is. Their stolen shuttle was intercepted by a human destroyer, its captain eager to recruit the legendary Marcus Reed for the growing rebellion. But Marcus had other plans. We need to find your sister, he told Lyra as they stood in the destroyer's hangar bay. The war will be won by others. We've done our part. Now it's time to live. The search took them to the outer rim, following leads and rumors through a dozen systems. The galaxy was in chaos. The hegemony's control crumbling as world after world declared independence. But in the confusion, they found traces of the sister who had been taken so many years ago. Research Station Omega, Lyra said, studying the classified files they'd liberated from a hegemony database. That's where they took the children with the highest genetic compatibility ratings. What kind of research? The kind that creates perfect soldiers, or perfect slaves? Marcus squeezed her hand. We'll find her, and if she doesn't want to be found, if they've broken her the way they tried to break me, then we'll put her back together, however long it takes. The station was a fortress in space, its defenses designed to keep intruders out and subjects in, but those defenses were useless against someone who knew the hegemony's tactical doctrine better than its own commanders. There, Lyra pointed to a weakness in the station's shield grid. Maintenance access. They never expect anyone to be crazy enough to use it. Good thing we're both crazy. They infiltrated the station like ghosts, avoiding patrols and security systems with practiced ease. The research levels were a maze of laboratories and holding cells, each one filled with the hegemony's victims. My God, Marcus whispered as they passed a room full of children, their eyes vacant and their bodies wired to monitoring equipment. What have they done? What they always do. They take what's beautiful and turn it into a weapon. They found Kira in the deepest level of the station, isolated in a cell that was more laboratory than prison. She was older now, 25 instead of 7, but Lyra recognized her immediately. Kira, the woman looked up, her eyes focusing with difficulty. Who are you? I'm your sister. I've come to take you home, sister. Kira's voice was flat, emotionless. I don't have a sister. The hegemony is my family. Lyra's heart broke. They had taken more than just her sister's freedom, they had taken her identity, her memories, her very sense of self. We can fix this, Marcus said quietly. The neural conditioning can be reversed. It will take time, maybe years. Then we have years. 5 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The hegemony had fallen, its worlds liberated and its leaders brought to justice. In its place, a new confederation had emerged, one built on cooperation rather than conquest, on freedom rather than oppression. Marcus and Lyra had played their part in the war's end, but they had spent most of their time on a small colony world in the Vulcarian system, helping Kira recover from decades of mental conditioning. It had been a slow process, filled with setbacks and breakthroughs, but gradually the woman who had been lost began to emerge. The gardens are beautiful this time of year, Kira said, her voice carrying warmth that had been absent for so long. Just like the ones we had when we were children. You remember? Lyra asked, hope filling her voice. Pieces, fragments, but enough. Kira smiled, and for the first time in years it reached her eyes. I remember a sister who promised to protect me, who kept that promise even when it seemed impossible. They sat together on the porch of their small house, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In the distance, the sounds of children playing drifted on the evening breeze. Any regrets? Marcus asked Lyra. about destroying the most powerful empire in galactic history, about starting a war that killed millions, about falling in love with a terrorist when you put it like that. No regrets, not one. A message chime interrupted their peaceful moment. Marcus checked his communicator, his expression growing serious as he read the contents. What is it? Lyra asked. The new Confederation. They want me to join their Security Council, help them build a fleet that can protect the outer worlds from raiders and slavers. And I told them I'd think about it. Lyra studied his face, seeing the conflict there. You want to go. Part of me does. There's still work to be done, still people who need protecting. Then go. I can't leave you. Not now. Who says you have to leave me? Lyra stood, moving to stand behind his chair. I hear the Confederation is looking for experienced agents, people who know how to fight dirty when necessary. Marcus looked up at her, surprise in his eyes. You'd do that? Give up this peaceful life? This isn't about giving up anything. It's about building something better, together. The work would be dangerous. So was everything else we've done. We might not survive. We might not survive staying here either. The galaxy is still a dangerous place. Marcus reached up, taking her hand. Together, always. Kira watched them with amusement. You two are absolutely insane. It's one of our best qualities, Marcus replied. And you're both leaving me here. You could come with us, Lyra suggested. The Confederation needs scientists. People who understand the hegemony's old technology. People who can help ensure it's never used for oppression again, Marcus added. Kira was quiet for a long moment, considering. I spent most of my life as a prisoner of other people's ambitions. Maybe it's time I chose my own purpose. Is that a yes? It's a yes. As the sun set over their small colony world, three unlikely allies prepared to embark on a new adventure. The assassin who had chosen love over duty, the terrorist who had become a liberator, and the victim who had found the strength to heal. The galaxy still held dangers, still harbored those who would prey on the weak and innocent, but it also held hope that had been kindled in the darkness of a cargo bay when an assassin had failed to kill her target and discovered something more valuable than any bounty. So what do we do now? Kira asked. Marcus smiled, pulling both women close. Now we build the future we want to live in, and if someone tries to stop us, then we remind them why humanity never stays down. In the distance, the stars began to appear, each one a world full of possibilities. The hegemony was dead, its reign of terror ended, but the work of building something better had only just begun, and for the first time in years, Marcus Reed looked forward to tomorrow. The woman who had come to kill him had instead saved him. She had shown him that even in the darkest places, love could bloom. That even the most broken souls could find redemption. That even the most impossible dreams could become reality. She had wanted to kill him, but instead she had ended up in his arms, begging not for death, but for life, for love, for a future they could build together. And that, Marcus thought as he held the two most important people in his life, was the greatest victory of all. The galaxy remembers heroes in different ways. Some are remembered for their victories, others for their sacrifices, but Marcus Reed and Lyra Voss are remembered for something rarer. They are remembered for proving that love can conquer even the darkest tyranny, and that sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is simply choosing to hope.